Greetings, beloveds. This is Amy Karen Johnson, the Earth Channel, here with you with another message from Gaia for the second full week of September, and focusing on the 2057 and the 2034-57 channels in human design. And I have a little bit of a special video for you today because this week represents two special things for me. First of all, it is the 50-second weekly video or vlog, as you may call it, that I have made. I've been making these for a year now. And that commencement of starting to make those videos also coincided with my birthday. So my birthday is coming up this week, my solar return. And there are some interesting similarities to my chart, although it's of course not an exact match from the time I was born, but similarities with the chart for this week with my own natal chart that I will talk about with you. And so if you are new to my videos and maybe new to human design as well, if you would like to run your chart or the chart of anyone else you might know and see if they have either of these channels defined in their natal charts, you can do so at humandesignamerica.com/chart. So diving right in, this is a special channel, and I wasn't sure when I was going to get to it, but basically the stars lit my way because well, at least the heavenly bodies, and in this case, particularly the nodes, which are not actually a body at all, but a position in space. But that aside, this channel is active this week, and so it is bringing me to speak about the integration channel in human design. The integration channel is the only channel in the body graph or chart that has 4 different gates that may be defined within that channel. Every other channel has only 2 gates, one at either end, that can help define part or all of that channel. So the 4 gates, just to go through them so that's very clear, hopefully, are the 20th gate, which is in the throat center, the brown square in this chart that I'm showing you. The 10th gate, which is not defined this week, and so I'm not going to talk about it, but that is in the diamond heart center, otherwise known as the G center, in the center of the body graph. And the 34th gate, which we talked about last week, along with the 20th, but the 34th is in the sacral center, the red square. And the 57th gate, which is in the what I call liver center, otherwise known as the splenic center, the brown triangle. And so when only the 2057, those 2 gates are defined, and therefore that full channel is defined, this channel behaves more like a sort of masculine version of the channel that is the mirror image of it in this body graph. And in my body graph, this is where that similarity falls for me. The other side is connecting the throat to the emotional center. The other brown triangle is the emotional center, and those gates are the 12 and the 22. They experience more of moods, you could say, and they are both individual channels as far as the channels. As far as just the emotional channel, the one that connects to the emotional center, that's the one that experiences more moods, whereas the one that connects to the liver center is more spontaneous, clear, but just sort of that still small voice that you do have to really listen for, otherwise you might miss it. And so those are the differences in how those 2 individual channels can be expressed. I have both of these channels defined in my natal chart, like I said, and with them being individual in particular. Even though they are both individual channels, the emotional channel is also, as I mentioned when I made that video, a manifesting channel. And so that has something to do with the fact that the emotional center is a motor center. And so with those emotions, with those moods, energy is generated from that center, not quite as much as the sacral center, which I'll get to in a moment, and how that affects that integration channel. But it's not necessarily an integration channel when it's only the 2057 connecting to the liver center. It's more like a projected channel in that case, if the sacral center, the 34th gate, was not involved, which of course it is this week, but I'm going to speak for a moment just about the 2057, and that'll help contrast and show you exactly what difference that is bringing to the mix. So as opposed to the emotional manifesting channel on the other side, the 1222, where energy is generated, it has more of a distinct feeling, but of course it goes up and down according to the moods that you might be experiencing. With it being an individual channel, that may be manifesting in ways that are really just for you, and so it's particularly important to make sure that you're not adversely impacting anyone else with your choices to manifest something using that channel. Whereas with the 2057, that, like I said, being just sort of a still small voice that you have to listen for, it has a lot to do with intuition. And being a projected channel, again, that intuition may be only for you if you experience that. However, if someone invites you in some way that is clear enough to you to share that insight or that intuition with them, then it might be for someone else as well. And the way that it's best to, excuse me, express those themes related to these projected channels that are not connected to motor centers, like the 2057, is to make sure that you do listen to that intuition for yourself, live your life accordingly, find the right timing. Timing is a big deal when it comes to the liver center and that intuition. And as you live out that intuition, people will notice, and people will be more likely to come to you and invite you to share your wisdom, share your intuition with them in a way that makes them teachable and more likely to follow it and for it to help them actually in some way. So last week we talked about the 2034 alone, and as I mentioned at that time, that is what is known by itself as the manifesting generator channel. However, it combines the sacral center with this projected channel, and so it gives it a lot of energy, and that's what makes it manifesting, that and being connected to the throat with that motor center. And I mentioned at the time that because that is the most powerful motor center, those of us who are experiencing a positive response to something and wanting to get going with that energy on some kind of work or some kind of effort of some kind, you may find yourself trying things out, getting started, but then needing to make course corrections and maybe going in a slightly different direction or maybe going in a really different, very different direction. The way that the 57th gate then comes in to affect that channel is by adding that clarity, adding that better sense of what the timing, the right timing is for those actions. And it makes it a little less likely that you're going to need to make those course corrections as long as you are listening to that intuition that is coming. If you're like me, I don't personally have the 34th gate active, but I do have the sacral center defined in another way. So it's almost like I have two parts of myself, and one part of myself has a little bit more of that clarity, and the other part of myself has more of that energy. But I still didn't necessarily listen to that intuition for myself for quite some time. I mean, maybe I did sometimes, but not consistently. And so if you can just get quiet, in a moment I will connect with Gaia. That's a great way to tune into your intuition, tune into the guidance that is coming from your own body as well as from Mother Earth, and get clearer on the types of actions, the types of effort that is going to serve your purpose the best. So last week I did not have a poem for you, but I did go ahead and write a poem this week to try to capture the essence of this channel. In this way, it will be mostly defined for all of us this week. As I mentioned last time, the 2034 by itself will be, excuse me, defined for us basically all for almost 4 months. And it's only been a week into that now, so still almost 4 months. But the 57th gate will no longer be defined next week. Next week we will talk about the 10th gate, because that is going to be defined at least unconsciously next week, and not the 57th. So we will still be looking at this integration channel, and we'll talk a little bit more about what it means to be an integration channel. I did also want to mention quickly that, as you can see if you look closely, the 34th gate is the only one also that crosses another channel, and as it connects to that 2057 channel. So the gate that's coming off the 44th, which I know you can't really see that 44 number there, it crosses over the top. And so if you're looking at a chart and you see a little white gap there, but the part behind it is colored in red or black or some combination of those, it is still defined, even though you may see a little gap there. It's a little confusing, but hopefully that makes sense. Okay, here's the poem for you, and then we will connect with Gaia. Everyone is looking for a way to be loved, not realizing that in fact each one of us is love. Only when you tune in to that loving piece can two people share in a way that is pleasing. And even if that happens for a day or two, there still will come times when each feels blue. True love of the self allows for these times, cradling oneself without breaking ties. All right, now I invite you to take a few deep breaths and close your eyes with me if you'd like. And I will bring in Mother Earth, Gaia. Hello, this is Gaia. We thank Amy for sharing this knowledge about human design with you, much of which she gets from us. The body of knowledge known as human design is a wonderful construct incorporating the 64 hexagrams known as gates in human design from the I Ching, as well as centers, which are roughly equivalent to chakras, and channels connecting those, which are similar in a way to the meridians known in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, as well as, of course, astrology. And as Amy shared, her birthday, solar return, is coming up this week. She is one of the few within the few days, born within the few days, where the sign of Virgo, according to the sun and where it is placed, overlaps between both Western astrology and the tropical zodiac, which Western astrology uses, and Vedic astrology and the sidereal zodiac, which Vedic astrology uses. So she is a Virgo sun sign in both. Also, of course, an earth sign as far as her sun is concerned. And so she has a strong connection by birth with us, Mother Earth, Gaia. And that inspired her to create these videos and bring forth messages from us. Those who have a strong presence of earth signs in their charts are sometimes known to be very diligent and sometimes critical. And we know that in truth there are many different charts. Everyone is very different, has many different influences and many different sides of themselves, which they may grow into expressing at one point or another in their lives. But those with the strong earth influence at their hearts care very deeply about stewarding the earth, giving back, service, health, and putting things in a coherent fashion, recognizing the beauty and love that can be found in a practice such as that. And so sometimes you may have come to recognize Virgos as being neat freaks, very tidy. And that is not necessarily the case for Amy, but that is only because she cares so deeply about recycling and her stewardship of the earth. And she does not have recycling pickup where she lives right now. So she goes to great pains to take in her recyclables as well as composting. And it means that it does build up a bit sometimes before she is able to take it in, making her place look a little untidy oftentimes. She also cares very deeply about her health and the health of her dog. And so she also goes to great lengths to make sure that she prepares healthy food for herself and her dog. And that too requires a little more work at home as opposed to just picking up some fast food and bringing it in or pouring some dog food out of a bag. She does do that too, but she adds some homemade stuff as well. And so we share this with you in honor of her solar return happening this week, as well as to highlight for you the different ways in which these energies may express themselves. And it's easy sometimes when you value, for example, tidiness, and someone else doesn't, someone else who perhaps you are close to. And because you value it more than some of these other things, you may perceive that other person as being uncaring, being lazy. But as we have just described to you, that is not necessarily the case. Perhaps their values are just more heavily weighted in slightly different areas, yet related areas. And she does keep up with proper hygiene and does work to clean up after herself. And yet when you do so much food preparation from home, there is always another mess to be cleaned up. And so we would invite you to identify those times when perhaps it is okay to not immediately clean up. We invite you to find times to meditate, to get quiet, to contemplate, to go out and be in nature, to take walks, and especially to ground, both as a visualization, grounding, as a breathing exercise, and as a physical practice. Whether that's by going outside in your bare feet, finding some shoes by which you are able to be grounded outside if you live in a climate that will be getting colder soon or gets cold at any time. That is one of the birthday presents that Amy is getting herself, as in her area it is nearing fall. Or there are several other options out there for you to ground, and they are highly beneficial. Amy has noticed it becoming easier to meditate when she grounds, using her grounding mat or her new grounding chair. Because you truly are physically connecting your body as it was meant to be with us. And it opens up that channel of communication with us. And we have so much to share with you. You can still ground by visualizing and by breathing. It is still effective. And yet, if you can make more physical contact with nature, with the soil, with green plants, we encourage you to do so as much as possible. So we hope you will join us in wishing Amy a happy birthday this week. And we thank you so much for joining us for this message. Namaste, beloveds.